Happy Devils Sunday. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast, season 9, episode 26. I'm your host, Sam Wu, coming to you live from the Primetime Radio studios inside the bunker, undisclosed location in beautiful New Jersey, cross continent to the Michael J. Fox studios in Beverly Hills, California. It's Scotty of Sirius XM Liquid Metal, as we're streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, Twitch, and now on Instagram Live on the Let's Go Devils Network. As the off-season continues, where do we start to revamp this roster? Some news in the past week. Scotty, how are you, my friend?
What's going on? Yes. Hello to everybody on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and X. Hello. Chirp away in the chats. Oh boy. What is this right here? There we go. There's Metalander and Dubs. What's going on? See everyone filing on in. Yeah. Hasn't been the most exciting week for Devils news, but there, have been some stories out there and some things happening. But overall, it's been a playoff push here for all the teams. And those Carolina Hurricanes, going to see how they do after about 2 weeks off. Whoever they take on between Buffalo and Montreal, which has been an exciting as hell series. To hell with home ice advantage, both teams say. So I'm not sure how this Game 7 for them is going to play out. I mean, naturally you would think, home team's got the advantage. But in this series, Buffalo had momentum at home. Montreal just crushed it. Montreal's got a chance to finish up the series at home. Buffalo just crushed it. So now it's Game 7 back in Buffalo. I don't even know which way to go in that situation.
These type of series, Scotty, it's tough because you've got two young teams. Inexperienced teams. They got by the first round. They're exciting. They've got a lot of speed. But both teams have, right now, Montreal, it was the goaltending. I thought in Game 6, I thought Dubas just struggled. He struggled throughout the game.
Dobish?
Yeah, that's
you
it.
Mean?
Yeah, I'm just lost right now.
It's all good.
So this is what happens when you take time off. You just, because I call him Doobie Doo. It kind of reminds me of that Bud Light commercial years ago. Beware of the Penguins.
I think that was actually Bud Ice.
Was it Bud Ice?
I think it was Bud Ice, the ice brewed Budweiser that has been long discontinued. I do believe it was Bud. Maybe it was Bud Light. I'm not sure.
Maybe it was
someone out there. Correct me.
Yeah. Anyway, but Lions had been struggling. So games, it's a toss up. And I think it's going to come down to a bad bounce or a bad call from the officiating. I think they're going to go 5 overtimes, and Carolina is just going to be like, keep beating yourselves up.
It'll be interesting to see how Carolina bounces back after so many days off, though.
Yeah.
But you with that team, you got Rod Brindamore. I mean, never doubt them being prepared to play. And with the greatest secret weapon in the playoffs the last 2 years, Freddie Anderson, man, you just really – I would not be surprised to see Carolina just start Game 1 as if they didn't have any days off and just be ready to roll.
Yeah, sources tell me that Freddie Anderson's agent keeps on reminding him, contract year. To keep him motivated, not to goof off during his downtime.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true.
Yeah, don't ride a motorcycle. till after the season, after you sign that big
Yeah,
deal.
right.
But
playoffs have been real exciting, out there in the West. Colorado and Vegas. I think most people got Colorado notched in that one, but we'll see. With Torts now leading the charge in Vegas, you get a team that didn't expect old Marner there to have such a high-end playoff run already. You would think a coach like Torts and a player like Mitch would clash inevitably. But so far it's been the opposite, and Mitch Marner's had a great playoff run.
yeah, and I'm so happy that the Minnesota Wild are out, because I just right now, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of that team. But Colorado, when they need to turn it on, they turn it on. They just turn it on. It's like a switch. They turn it on. I mean, it's a veteran team. It's a talented team. It's surprising that two goaltenders, Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, are in net. One of our own, both drafted by New Jersey, both play with New Jersey, and both traded one was let go on waivers by Tom Fitzgerald, and the other one was traded by Tom Fitzgerald. So it's amazing, to see the progression of a lot of these Devils goaltenders that, have had issues with New Jersey. Vitek Vanacek, I believe his name is on the Stanley Cup right now. I don't care if he was a third string backup or whatnot. He's doing well. And I think right now, because we're going to have the draft soon, we're going to have free agency. There's going to be a lot of moves, Scotty. And I think Sunny Mehta hiring Braden Birch to be the guy, oversee the AHL team for the time being the salary captologist, so to speak. I think they have to rebuild within, but at some point, and I know there's a lot of Quinn Hughes talk and all that kind of stuff. You got to figure out this goaltending situation in New Jersey. What are you gonna? Are you really gonna go with Markstrom to start the season, or is there an opportunity to get another goaltender? Because I like to build from the goalie out, and then you can worry about the defense and that whole Quinn Hughes thing. What you want to do with that? Some of the trade rumors that I'm seeing, and you passed it along to me, and everybody's talking about trading Nico Hischier and part of that deal because Minnesota wants that centerman. Well, so does the entire NHL. You just don't give away Nico Hischier like that when you really don't need to. I don't think there's no, you could give up another player, but no way, you could start with
no
Nemec.
Credit. Yeah, there's no credibility in that. Like I said to you, I think I was actually Beer Baron that loves to send these wonderful bogus trade ideas into our group chat. There's no way in any sane person's mind that you're going to be trading Nico Hischier, Shimon Nemec, and a first round draft pick for Quinn Hughes. I mean, it's just not happening. It's just not. So, anyone
and he added Seamus Casey in there just for.
Oh yeah,
great. He threw the Beer Baron. If you're gonna make a trade with Beer Baron,
yeah,
you can definitely take advantage. Thank goodness Beer Baron's not the Devils GM.
Yeah, I don't think there's any world that Sunny accepts a deal like that. We talked about it last week. Sunny was part of the Devils management team that drafted Nico Hischier. And he said it was the second person that he called after he got the job. I don't foresee him trading Nico Hischier. If he did, it would be like a 1-for-1 for a really big name. I know they were fooling around about the Austin Matthews thing. That's what I would expect if that was going to be a deal. But I just don't see Nico Hischier getting traded by Sunny, unless it's someone that is, if it's like a 1-for-1 like that. But I would just personally, I would just keep Nico Hischier. But there is no need,
as long as Nico wants to be here. As long as he wants to be. But if he says,
as long as Nico, yeah. If he's indifferent about it, and he wants to be traded, that's a different story. But for planning out the team's future, I think it would be smart to keep Nico Hischier and sign him to a contract. And we were talking about it, somewhere, I think somewhere around 11 million. 10.5 would be a good team one. 11.5 to 12 would be good for the player. So hopefully somewhere around 11 million in the middle. And Nico becomes the first double-digit player on the team. And you move forward from there.
Yeah.
I personally don't think you trade Nico. That package is just ridiculous. Like I said in our group chat, that must have come from a Minnesota Wild social post fan reply on like Instagram or Twitter or some crap like that. I guess that was one of the most ridiculous trade proposals I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Also, Max is saying that my tweet about Quinn's body language was quite the riot on X/Twitter. I don't know if you saw that, Scotty, but let me explain because I wasn't kidding around. They talked about, the press conference after the Wild got kicked out, addressing the media. Quinn Hughes, he's there talking. I noticed the body language. He's on defense a little bit. He answered the questions. He did fine with that. But he was answering the questions like giving you that status quo type. Yeah, I'll listen to what Billy has to say, something like that. I don't know the exact quote. And and the body language is everything because I'm watching it. And I'm convinced that he's obviously not sure. He wants to keep his options open. But at the same time, nobody ever talks about it. Oh, I'll talk to my family, talk to my parents and, that kind of thing. That's where it's going to all change. Because once the family gets involved, Scotty, they obviously want the best for Quinn. But we saw this scenario with Zach Parise. It was his dad that eventually convinced him to go to Minnesota. And family has a lot of influence. I think Quinn wants to. It's kind of like Quinn right now is. I feel like is when he's visiting colleges right now, and he's just touring what Minnesota has to offer. He just took a couple summer classes there. Had an appetizer, but. You always wanted to be maybe on the East Coast, maybe. So anyway, I just think because these Minnesota Wild fans, they are so confident that he's re-signing, that New Jersey sucks, blah 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 blah. I don't think so. I think he's playing his cards absolutely correct, and he's going to get the most money possible. And I also think that 3-year deal thing Elliot Friedman brought up, which. I respect Elliot Friedman, but at the same time, 3 years is a long time to wanting to coordinate to playing with your brother. And where does Luke fit in that when Jack's contract's up and anything can happen? One of them can snap their knee and their career's over and they'll never get to play. And when you have a contract year like this, you got to get the max because it's guaranteed. You don't leave any money that risk on the table. You just don't. You got to sign long term.
Yeah, I don't see Quinn signing that extension. I mean, I get it. I get what Friedman was saying, and hey, that's his job is to look at these things. It would make a lot of sense for Minnesota. Yeah, that's a good offer for them to put out on the table for their perspective. But from the player perspective. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it would be the smartest move because the Hughes brothers have made it clear that they want to play together. And 2 of the 3 are signed here in New Jersey, or for me, across the country in New Jersey. Yeah. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for Quinn to sign that and delay another 3 years him getting to meet up with his brothers. And it just, I don't know. I don't buy that either. I think it makes a lot of sense from Minnesota's standpoint. And that's probably what Billy G is going to be shopping there.
Yeah.
But the best thing in the world happened for the Devils, and that was, the Wild, they won 1 game against Colorado. I mean, It was pretty clear who the better team was in that situation. So now you have Quinn there who's like, all right, I'm not on Colorado. Vegas and Edmonton had a down year. If McDavid is up there, and is Minnesota really the team that's going to get that to that next level? And you also look at our old buddy John Hines, who's leading the charge behind the bench there. John Hines has never gotten out of the second round. Never. In all his years.
I'll make a counter argument to that. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just gonna I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. You like that pun? Mm-hmm, at the same time, if you look at the whole body of work of John Hines, you got to take a look at what kind of teams he had, especially in New Jersey. And also, you also have to think as well that is Minnesota really that close? And because the fans think that they're close, I don't think they're close. I don't think they're close at all. I think that they're respectable, but I don't think they're close.
Yes, I don't think they're anywhere close to Colorado. And if Edmonton ever gets a goaltender, look out. But just for perspective here, John Hines is 11-25 in the playoffs. He was 1-4 with the Devils, 3-11 with Nashville, and 7-8 with the Minnesota Wild. He's never been on a run in his career. And it's a lengthy career now. It's not like he's some rookie coach anymore. So you look at things like that. You look at the fact that the other 2 are already in New Jersey. I just don't see Quinn doing an extension. And I think Billy G is, once he gets a hold of that, he's going to trade Quinn.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's going to try and trade him to New Jersey. But we'll see. It's a good thing that we have some good connections with Mr. Guerin. We'll see how that all plays out. We know that he was trying to trade for Luke Hughes during the season. And that's another option as well that I know everyone will flip out on me, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure Bill Guerin will probably try to put together a package for both Jack and Luke. And I think that's something Sunny should 100% look at. Not to say that he should take it, but he should see what Minnesota is piling up there. So you never know. You never know what could be in a crazy package like that. I don't think he'll take it. I think it's going to go the other way. But you should always look and see, especially as we've talked about, the inconsistency of this team through the last number of years. You really, really have to look at that. But I think Quinn wants to be on the East Coast here, wants to be near the family. I think it will eventually happen. It's going to take some time. But that particular trade package is way off the mark. Way off the mark. And if Minnesota is really serious about it, you would think one of their main targets would be Shimon Nemitz. Another upside D-man, very young, who can step immediately into an NHL role. Obviously, he's not Quinn Hughes, but you have Faber there as well. And Shimon Nemitz can develop into a really, really good, top pair defenseman in a couple years. But don't look now, because there's another team out there in the same division as the Minnesota Wild who Shimon Nemitz would fit in pretty damn good with. And that is the Chicago Blackhawks, who are going to be making some moves, who also have some pretty good draft picks. I don't remember. Where are they at? 6? Are they at 6?
Fourth. I thought they were a 4th.
4? Okay, I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Could it end up that instead of Nemitz heading to Minnesota, he heads to a rebuilding Chicago Blackhawks team, where you have a Nemitz and a Connor Bedard who are ready to grow up together, a la, Taze and Duncan Keith, how they started their trajectory, 10, 15 years ago when they went on their run into their dynasty. Now, I'm not saying that. Well, listen, Connor Bedard is pretty damn good already. I don't know if Shimon Nemitz is going to be Duncan Keith, but still, you get the point. The Blackhawks are going to be a team that makes some moves, and they have some valuable assets like that high pick that could potentially be thrown out there on someone like a Shimon Nemitz. Now, if you're Sunny and Chicago comes and says, hey, I got the 4th overall pick, I don't think you say, well, I might have him, stashed away for Quinn Hughes. I think you're taking that 4th overall pick. And then you flip that 4th overall pick for Quinn. And that's that. Maybe you add in a Dawson Mercer or a Seamus Casey as well. I don't know. But I would see something like that as a very real possibility. And I know we've all talked about Dougie Hamilton getting moved out, but read a pretty interesting article. Dougie was horrible for a long portion of this season. We know that. We saw it. But after he got benched, Dougie went on a bit of a tear. And if you look at his numbers, they were really good in the last half of the season. Sunny is a numbers guy. I don't know if he's going to be so quick to be trying to ship Mr. Hamilton out somewhere else, especially with the salary cap going up. Now, if you can find a place that Dougie would like to go to because he has that protection, that's a different story. But if Dougie doesn't want to go to a place like Minnesota, we know he's already said no to Toronto. Don't be surprised to see him on the team next season. I personally never thought Dougie Hamilton would finish that contract in New Jersey, just given the sheer, amount of it and everything. But now with the cap going up and salaries ballooning the way that they are, don't be shocked. Dougie Hamilton at $9 million next year might be the bargain of the league.
Yeah.
Now, the way all the salaries are going. So, because Quinn is going to cost a pretty penny when it does come time to sign him. So, I'm just saying, everything that we thought was a shoe-in, like, yeah, absolutely, they're gonna trade. I don't know.
I don't know where some of these fans around the league, I don't think Bill Guerin holds the cards here at all. First you need to have Quinn to agree to extend. Then it's going to be how many years. But have you looked at Minnesota's cap situation? They're going to have to make some room. So, they're going to have to make some big sacrifices. we're talking about $17.5 million, if after next season. So, it's, and plus, if Quinn does not commit by July 1st and talks stall, Sunny Mehta, believe me, there's going to be competition. So it's still not going to be easy, but Sunny Mehta is not inclined to give up a Nico Hischier. I would even go as far as not even inclined to give up Shimon Nemec in that deal. Because it's not Sonny's problem. And of course you want to make a deal, right? But I think Sonny has all the leverage here. What Bill Guerin did was ballsy, which I agree with Quinn's assessment. He basically is like, okay, Tom, everybody's waited long enough. I'm moving in, and I like that move. I like that. I like that risk. I would love to see that in the GM. But the risk is, if it doesn't work out, they're gonna throw everything at Quinn. But at the end of the day, in my estimation, when he goes back to his family about it, how much do you want to play with your brothers? They're going to have to reevaluate that. And they're going to reevaluate, well, do you think it's really smart to sign a 3-year extension and take that risk? Like a Trevor Bauer contract where it's high AAV for 3 years that you bet on yourself? Anything can happen in those 3 years. You could sign, I believe you have till a certain time to get an 8-year deal before they end it. I think it's like by September 15th, I think, or something. I could be wrong. And if it were up to me, I would go with family and security. That long-term contract. And then you worry about everything else later.
I mean, another point is Quinn doesn't have to sign anything.
No.
He can very easily just say, no, I'm going to stay on my current deal and I'm going to be a free agent at the end of the year.
And that's where Bill Guerin has to make that decision. Is he a rental for 1 year? Or is he going to get a lot in return? Or try to?
Not from the Devils. Yeah, because that's the thing. That's why seeing some of these trade things are just laughable.
Yeah.
Why would Sonny trade Nico Hischier, Shimon Nemec, Seamus Casey, and a first-round pick for a guy who's going to be a free agent in the offseason?
That's why the leverage is still with Sunny Mehta. The leverage was with Tom Fitzgerald too. He just couldn't get his act together.
He could have got a deal done, but I wouldn't have overpaid for Quinn to Vancouver either. I know I was on record of saying that because some of the stuff that was out there was just like, no, why would we spend all that for someone who's going to be a free agent soon? It's not like he's locked into a 7 or 8 year contract. And this is the same thing here. And that's why Bill wants to get an extension for Quinn Hughes, because then he can trade him and get a lot more. And then you get a lot more back because you're like, okay, well, Quinn is there for the next 3 years at this price. That's true. A different story. And that's why Bill would like to get it done. And that's why it's a smart play for the Wild to get that extension. But Quinn Hughes has got to play ball on that part. And he may just be like, nah, I don't want to complicate things even more. I'll finish out my deal here, and I'll be an unrestricted free agent. And if they want to trade Quinn Hughes not to the Devils, I think that's fine. Because he's still a free agent at the end of the year, and everybody knows where he wants to go. He wants to play with little bros. They're signed in New Jersey, and they're not going anywhere. So unless the deal of the century comes through for Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes, I don't know. I see things just kind of standing pat. Because also for Quinn, if he signs an extension, that doesn't give him as much leverage to negotiate as a free agent for contract, for size, length, everything,
I mean, he would be 30 years old if you give him that 3-year extension and that contract runs out. 31 years old. Are you on the back nine of your career or you're in your prime? You want that you want that 7 to 8 year deal financially. You want to lock that up. Because it could all backfire for Quinn Hughes. And that's a big risk and big bet on yourself to sign a 3-year extension to appease Bill Guerin.
Yeah, and Devils are beastly here. I mean, he doesn't want an extension for Hughes so they can trade him. They want it so they can keep him. Why would you want to keep a player who has said they don't want to play on your team, that they want to go play on another team with their brothers, and they're tired of wasting time not playing with them? You signed him to an extension, and that's 3 more years of Quinn potentially not getting to play with Jack and Luke. And you can say, well, Jack and Quinn will be free agents at the same time, and then they're going to leave Luke behind. I don't see that happening. They won't get that close to getting all 3 of them together to split the other 2 up away from New Jersey. It's just not going to happen. So again, Bill Guerin could put together the package of all packages for Luke and Jack, and I think Sunny should take a look at that. He shouldn't just brush it off. He should see what it is. But it's got to be astronomical, obviously.
I mean, if Sunny Mehta is going to give up big assets, there's got to be guarantees that it should be a sign and trade kind of scenario. That it's guaranteed. Like what they did with was it Damon Severson? Was it Damon Severson? Mm-hmm. Didn't they do that? Or I forgot. I forgot which player recently.
Wasted youth Capper. Wasted youth Caper. Boldy and Faber for Luke and Jack. Dougie and a draft pick for Brock Besser. Dawson Mercer, a draft pick in Hamanejo for Mers Lincolns and Matthew Olivier, and signed Patrick Lonnie. I don't think. No, I wouldn't. No Lonnie. Definitely like the idea of the Columbus deal there. Getting a goaltender and someone who can beat the living hell out of an opponent who messes with any of the Hughes brothers. I don't know if they would do Boldy in favor for Luke and Jack. That could be something, though. It would have to be along those lines. It would have to be like a straight up superstar swap. But Billy G loves Boldy, so I just don't see him giving him away.
You're giving away the farm, like you're giving away a lot just to have 3 Hughes brothers on one team. Makes no sense. The Devils were lucky to actually draft Jack and Luke and also sign them to long-term extensions. But I think Quinn's got all the leverage here. What's going to happen is I'm making a prediction right now. I think Quinn is going to weigh his options and say, it's my contract year. I don't think he's going to sign. I don't think he's going to sign an extension at all, Scotty. And then Bill Guerin has to figure out, do I keep Quinn for a year as a rental and go all in? Or do we trade him? Or have him start the season in Minnesota, then trade him mid-season.
I think that's what you do.
Because I think
I mean,
I think you'll
you're
get
taking a
haul from him.
risk.
Yeah.
You're taking a risk because he could potentially get injured. But I think that's what you do. Is you trade him midseason, probably to someone out east, so you don't have to face him in the playoffs afterwards.
Yeah.
Potentially, depending on how Minnesota's season goes. You trade him out somewhere out east, maybe to Detroit or something like that for a little bit. And then, he's a free agent.
Something tells me the New York Rangers are going to be trolls and try to be a bidder in that. Even the Philadelphia Flyers as well, because they're not going to make it easy for Sunny Mehta.
Sunny's smarter than their two front offices. I
know, but driving up prices has nothing to do with him being smart.
Yeah. There'll be a point where maybe Sunny's just like, okay, well, go ahead, guys, and they'll just be like, wait a minute, we can't actually afford that. So
yeah, well, yeah,
I trust Sunny over Drury. That's for damn sure. I think Sunny will outmaneuver him in a heartbeat. So
yeah, you know what, it should be interesting, but I wouldn't be if I was a Minnesota Wild fan, I wouldn't be too confident on this. They seem pretty confident. They, just because, that one press conference. But the way I looked at that press conference was he had his arms crossed. He was in a defensive position and he was saying the right things in order to keep his options open. I didn't see any kind of bold statement that he made in that press conference. I thought it was status quo, typical PR move. You keep your options open. You say nice things about the fans, the organization, because Minnesota, the fans, they're great. They're great. They're supportive. Minnesota.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it depends where Quinn's priorities are. That's a personal thing. And I don't want to get, deep into that, but it's definitely not in the bag. But, money talks. We'll see. We'll find out by July 1st. Or maybe even before then, by the draft, what might happen. He's going to hear what Billy has to say. I will say this, though, Scotty. I'm kind of sick of the Minnesota Wild in terms of they're a bunch of copycats. They try to be like the New Jersey Devils in their entire franchise history. I'm talking not the Minnesota North Stars, but I'm talking about the Minnesota Wild when that expansion team started back in the late 90s. It's like they get Jacques Lemaire, Willie Mitchell, Brad Bombardier. I think Jim Dowd. Didn't Jimmy Dowd play with the Minnesota Wild? They seem like they have a fetish with former New Jersey Devils. Then, obviously the Zach Parise thing, John Hines, Bill Guerin. It seems like Tom Chorsky. Seems like they're all freaking New Jersey Devils with the Minnesota Wild. What's up with that? It's kind of pissing me off. Bunch of copycats.
Well, they're looking at the best. What can you say?
Yeah.
Devils are beastly. So that's another one. Oh, thank you, Felix. Dowd was their captain. That's another one. See, I think. See, now I'm not so sure Dougie's going to get moved. Like we were talking about, his numbers were actually really good in the second half of the season. So I don't know. With Sunny being a numbers guy like that, I'm just not sure that he's going to get moved. San Jose would be a great spot for him. Greer did put together some proposals for Dougie last summer. He was trying to acquire him. But Dougie used his no movement clause to ixnay trades to San Jose. Now, I think he might have regret that once you see how good Celebrini is and Smith and everyone else. You're like, oh, damn. Man, maybe I should have took that offer over there. So who knows? Maybe this offseason he might be a little bit more inclined to look at an offer from San Jose. And you know that Greer is always aggressive in making moves, trading picks, putting together these packages. He's not afraid to do it. Hell's bells. I'm sure people were pretty damn nervous with him trading Timo Meyer when he did, but boom, didn't stop Greer. So don't be surprised to see him make some moves. Also, the Sharks and the Blackhawks, who we were talking about, they have some trade potential there as well. So Dougie to San Jose, it makes sense, but you have to get Dougie to agree to it. Same thing with Minnesota. It would make sense if Dougie was part of a package for Quinn Hughes. You move Faber up to that top spot on the power play, then Dougie could be number 2. Boom. Works out great. But Dougie's got to okay that because he's got the no movement clause.
Can you imagine if the Devils made big trades with Chicago and San Jose and got the second, fourth overall picks? So 2, 4, and whatever pick the Devils have.
I wouldn't be surprised if something like that could happen.
I'd be all for it, to be honest. And
if I was Chicago, I would definitely be looking at, young defensemen like that. And let's face it, Shimon Nemeth was the second overall pick. And even though he's had his issues here and there, maybe some of it was language barrier, maybe some of it was some media translation of different languages, and it just came out, it just read wrong and stuff like that. But he did improve as the season went on. That's for damn sure. And he's a young kid. At some point, if he continues on this trajectory, he's going to be a top pair defenseman. Now, you can never guarantee things, of course, but, unless you're the New York Rangers, those high draft picks usually pan out pretty well. Right, Sam Wu?
We're going to visit Lafreniere situation. I saw a headline.
We'll have to get Billy Dean back on the phone again and talk about
this is
Hugh Jessman.
This would be great if the Devils got traded Dougie in a package to get that second overall pick to San Jose, and traded Nemeth and a package to get that fourth overall, and the Rangers are sitting at number 5.
Yeah. Mean, if there's ways to go about. I mean, if you trade it, Nemeth, I don't know, maybe you trade Nemeth and Mercer for that number 4 pick. I don't know. For me personally, I would flip that 4 pick up to Toronto for Matty Nyes. I know I've said this for the past couple of weeks, but having that powerful force who can actually skate and keep up with a Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes, that is exactly what this team needs. But there's a lot of potential that can be done out there. If San Jose and Chicago are looking to wheel and deal, and let's face it, we have the 12th overall pick. That's not too bad either. There's moves that can be made.
You could swap 100%. Picks too.
Yeah.
You could always swap picks to move up.
So there's a lot of different ways the Devils can really play this out. And last week, I know we had talked about it, some of the differences now, Jacob Markstrom has a 20-team no-trade list. Brendan Dillon has a 10-team no-trade list. I think there's 2 or 3 others. I know Jack Hughes now has a 10-team no-trade list. I wouldn't worry so much about him. And someone else has changed. I can't remember. Somebody else's no movement clause changed to a no-trade list. And I think it was another 10 team, but I can't remember who it was. But either way, that also gives Sunny a little bit more, freedom to try and wheel and deal and do some stuff.
Well, yeah. And again, I want to give Sunny a chance even if he has to do a little bit of, a little bit of an overhaul, if he can get rid of Markstrom and Hamilton's contracts off the books and trade Nemec in the process because he's going to get a decent raise.
Yes.
That's a tremendous, and with the cap going up 8.5 and kind of hit the, just kind of not a reset, but just kind of like rebooting the computer a little bit where Sunny has money to play with and assets like draft picks, and let Sunny do what Sunny does best, is evaluate talent with the, Braden Birch that was brought in. I wouldn't mind taking a step back and just kind of peeling off a couple of the Band-Aids with this organization. They got to rebuild that pipeline coming out of Utica. They got to figure out the Utica coaching situation. Nick Villano keeps on telling me, I haven't verified or checked this, that the coach at Utica is still an interim, and it's been 2 years already. Like, what are you waiting for? Is he the coach or not? And
I think Sunny will fix that.
He'll fix that. But also, Seamus Casey, the player development, we need that pipeline. If you're going to have players like Jack Hughes, long term, or Nico Hischier long term, and Quinn Hughes long term, and Luke Hughes long term, and Timo Meyer and Jesper Bratt and all that, they're going to get paid. You got to have a farm system and a pipeline to fill those gaps. You're going to have to, because otherwise, we're in the same boat that we have been in the last few years.
Yeah. And Jason, no, I would not be surprised if Nyes gets moved from Toronto. They are definitely going to make some moves, especially with the particular person and his bad reputation and bad history of terrible moves. Now in charge up there in Toronto. Do not be surprised to see some head scratchers coming from the Toronto Maple Leafs this summer.
I can't wait the shadiness to begin. John Chayka. Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment making a deal with John Chayka.
And I wouldn't see why a team like Minnesota wouldn't want a Dougie Hamilton who could be that PP2 chief for them and let Faber step into the top role. Because right now he's on PP2 and Quinn's, rocking PP1. So that makes perfect sense right there to have a guy not long term who can just immediately step into that role. So I don't know. Don't be surprised at some of these moves, but I think there's a lot more pressure on Bill Guerin than maybe people are realizing, because he's really not in the power chair for these moves. If San Jose wants to play, if Chicago wants to play, they have high draft picks that are very valuable. Like I said, if you trade Nemec to Chicago for that fourth, I would immediately call Toronto afterwards and be like, yo, dude. And take a fourth and take the fourth overall and Dawson Mercer. But I think Nemec is because Tom Fitzgerald screwed it up. Giving Luke Hughes $9 million a year. Okay, I get it. He's Luke and everything. But now you have Shimon Nemec, who is a number 2 overall pick. Sam, where did Luke Hughes get drafted?
4.
Oh, 4. So if you're a number 2 overall pick and the number 4 overall pick got $9 million, what do you think should be coming your way then?
What Nemec needs to do is beg Jim Hughes to adopt him and have that Hughes last name. Then you have a fourth
Shimon
brother.
Hughes?
Yeah. And then you got a fourth Hughes brother by adoption. The Slovenian Hughes brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too, again, I want to put this out there. because I've been doing a lot of trash talking on X this week. Do you remember Billy Guerin as a devil?
Yeah, of course.
And how he left. It left a really bad taste in my mouth when him and Lou were negotiating. And I think Bill Guerin overvaluated himself to the point where, and I was there for his last game. I remember yelling at, I had gold circle tickets, and I had the seats right next to the players' tunnel when they went out on the ice, center ice. And I remember yelling at Bill Guerin and all that. That was his last game before he got traded for Jason Arnott. And he is, I feel like he is a tough negotiator, Bill Guerin, the way that whole contract situation played out. But I also think he kind of overvaluated himself because the Devils, they traded Bill Guerin, but man, was Jason Arnott so much better. So much better getting back because Arnott was having trouble with his young career. He had I guess his rookie season was great, and then he was just, kind of, I wouldn't say going downhill, but kind of like Dawson Mercer, kind of like plateaued. But as soon as the Devils got Jason Arnott and he got comfortable and they put that A-line together, that the rest is history. And I just feel like Bill Guerin in this situation, I like that he was aggressive. I like how hard he works being a GM. But I think right now, I think he's going to find out the hard way in the end. And I could be wrong that it's not going to be easy to negotiate with the Hughes family on this one. I think it's
I'm sure.
Tough.
Yeah. And Jay, just because we're kind of chatting here, the reason why you would trade Matty Nyes is because the other person you were looking at, Austin Matthews, is way too expensive. He has control, and Matty Nyes has no control over his contract. And at $7 million a year, 7.5, whatever it is, it's a steal. So, therefore, you can probably ask for a lot more for a 23-year-old power forward who is locked up for the next couple of years, who has no trade protection. And the whole reason why I mentioned all this was because Chicago has already, been shopping that fourth pick to Toronto for, in fact, Matty Nyes. That's why I would like, maybe, butt in there. I think they're going to look at Robertson from Dallas, and they're going to look at Matty Nyes up in Toronto. And Matty has he has no protection in his contract. And if you probably talk to a bunch of GMs right now, the way Austin Matthews has been playing, and the contract, the length, the no protection, and the amount of it, I would say Matty Nyes probably has more, is more valuable right now. I know that sounds crazy, but given everything that's going on with Austin Matthews and the Maple Leafs and the disaster that it's been up there, that's the leader of the team. So that's why it's someone that Toronto might move. I'm not saying they're definitely going to do it, but it would make perfect sense for Chicago to go after him with that pick. It would make sense for the Devils, who desperately need a power forward like that and someone who could actually skate fast enough to keep up with a Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. That's why Connor Brown looks so good playing with those two guys. Connor Brown was able to play with McDavid. If you're able to play with McDavid, chances are you're fast enough to play with just about everyone else in the league.
Or at least know where to be.
Hence why Andre Palat looked so friggin' terrible out there, because he was about 5 steps behind everything Jack and Jesper were doing. Connor Brown gets in there. Yeah, he's not the sexiest name to throw on your top line, But oh, hell's bells, were they getting the job done after the Olympic break? That's just my perspective on things. And we're always fine to disagree. That's what this is all about. Talking, chatting.
I always disagree with you, Scotty.
I know. Yeah.
Just not today.
But Jace, no, I will agree with you on that one. Fitz fumbled all the picks. Yeah. that's for Jace.
Yeah, of course he did. I mean, he screwed up the 2022 draft.
Have we met Jay? Has Jay come to any of our events?
I don't remember.
I'm trying to think. Jay, have we met? Were you at the outdoor game?
I remember meeting Big Steve Engel. You know.
Yes. We met so many people.
Michael Hay, I've met.
But we'll see. You know, and I know we're getting near to the end of the show over here. Amazingly, this hour just flew the frig right by.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But we didn't even get to talk about, you know, there's a certain ex-Devil, speaking of, like Bill Guerin, who had kind of a rocky end to his run as a New Jersey Devil. And for the last number of years, he's been up on the front office of the Boston Bruins, but now officially no more. That's right. Jamie Langenbrunner is a front office free agent, an FOFA.
Yep.
Now, of course, there can be rumors that he comes back, but as someone who's been an assistant GM for a while, he may want to go and try to give a crack at that, you know, GM position if offered to him. Would love to, you know, have his hockey sense in the front office of the Devils if he doesn't land out in that. Oh boy. Oh, Jamie. We feel bad for you already, but Vancouver may be calling for you, buddy, if you want a shot at that.
I don't even know where that rumor came from. I laughed at that when I saw that. Yeah, rumors are that Vancouver's going to... Where were the rumors coming from?
Overhaul.
Yeah.
They need a complete overhaul. Calgary is... I don't know what they're going to do. It seems like they're going to fire sale everything as well again. So, but Jamie Langenbrunner would be a great addition to this front office. Again, what did we talk about, Sam? People who actually know hockey.
Yeah.
That's what this team needs. It needs those leaders like that. That's why, you know, we were, oh, yeah, hey, we still need a president of hockey operations here. And everyone was like, Shanahan. Oh, yeah, great ties to the team. But he's someone who obviously knows hockey. No business people who don't know what's going on. You need someone who actually knows what it takes to be on a winning team, which Brendan Shanahan did. Maybe Langs could be someone for a president of hockey operations. Who knows? Potential there. I don't know.
Wouldn't that be something?
But we shall see. That would be something.
Final thoughts, Scotty?
Jay Snow wasn't at that game. Yeah, you missed out on the Sam seats. It was so cold, but where Sam was sitting, he had his shoes off up on the seats there.
Roasting
his toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, next to the Jonas Brothers Fireball extravaganza.
Yeah.
As I was climbing Mount Everest to the top of Giant Stadium there.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, but you come up there and tell us how it goes.
Well, what was I supposed to do? I was going. I was going. I was cleaning up Well, everybody went inside, and I got rewarded because I got inside late, and I see Arlette. She's like, where are you going? Oh, I'm going upstairs. No, you're not. And then she brought me down to like row 1.
Oh.
Yeah.
No Sam seats.
Yeah.
That's
Row
why Sam
1.
always sits in the suites. Now it's the Sam suites. Instead of the seats, it's the Sam suites.
I can't help it that people invite me in the rich people section.
Goes to that sweet hair that Sam Woo's got.
Yeah.
Devils would love to bring back Lang. Yeah. Be an interesting position right there. For a team that is still in need, my president of hockey operations. But my final thought is that, everything that we were preparing for, a la with Tom Fitzgerald, we got to throw all that crap out the window, because Sunny has got a different playbook, a different mindset, and a different way of evaluating players. So everything we thought we knew or were predicting, or is like, no way they don't get this deal done, throw it out the window. Because it's all going to be different now with Sunny at the helm. And I don't know about you, if you agree with me or not. I think you probably do. I think it's going to be a really good thing for this team moving forward. Because obviously they were fractured and broken after some of the stunts that Fitzy pulled. Definitely last season. Yeah. With the, hey, who wants to waive the no movement clause? Let's hope Sunny has got some better game planning than what Fitzy gave us. Remember at the beginning of last season? There's no holes on this team. 2 people get hurt, and guess what? There were a lot of holes on that team.
Yeah, we did a lot this summer. We took forever to extend Luke Hughes.
Yeah. So to the point where he missed training camp. Awesome. Just what you want to do with a young developing player.
Yeah. Final thoughts. We didn't cover this, but it was out there that Minnesota Wild were inquiring about Luke Hughes during the season, and I probably pinpointed it to after the fans booed Luke, and then the Devils lost 9-0 the next game, and I bet you that's when the phone call came. There's Bill Guerin being aggressive, trying to pounce on a bad situation brewing in New Jersey. This is before the Olympics. And Devils said no. Thank God Tom Fitzgerald didn't entertain anything. I don't think he was even allowed to, because I think he was on the way out. Yeah. He was on the way out, and he still hasn't gotten the Nashville job yet. So that just tells you where, maybe they're waiting. Maybe Nashville is waiting on Tom Fitzgerald to make a decision. Maybe that's what it is. But anyway. All right. Well, going to drop the podcast in about 20 minutes. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Prime, Audible. Thank you. We'll have a State of the Fan address on Wednesday. Also at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Also Hockey on Tap will be on at 8:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So that's it. As the offseason continues, I want to thank all those tuning in. Keep it here. Keep it at the Let's Go Devils podcast. Till next time, let's go Devils.